Hey guys, welcome back to the Dally Diaries. Today's video is just me sitting, chatting to you. If you are a fellow endo warrior, then you're probably going to be able to relate to a lot of this video. But also if you're just interested to know what's going on in my life, then this will update you as well, because there has been a lot going on. So I think it wasn't that long ago, just before Christmas, when I spoke to you about how my workplace was cost cutting and therefore cutting jobs in places like Adelaide and Perth. So obviously the biggest stations in our network are in Melbourne and Sydney. And so now what's happening is a lot of radio is being networked from those two places out to the rest of Australia. Coco. She's outraged. So I knew that going into Christmas that already my weekend shifts had been cut and I didn't know when I would be on air again. Then I had a phone call from my boss just like a week ago, and he was letting me know that the other part of my job, which is where I panel for networked shows to put them to air in Adelaide and also in our regional networks across Australia, that job has now been taken away from our station as well. And so there are 3 of us that used to do that job who no longer have that job to do. So it's all part of cost cutting. And yeah, so that was a blow. It was a definite shock to the system. I have worked for that particular company for 3.5 years at that station, announcing and paneling. And yeah, I'm a casual, but I have had consistent shifts every week for the last 3.5 years. And then to all of a sudden have no shifts because they've all gone away. We don't have them at our station anymore. It's been really sad to try and get my head around. And hey, baby, Billy Bowie's here, my little cavoodle, my therapy dog. He's just had a treat ball because he's been such a good boy today. But yeah, so I spent a great deal of last week crying and being really sad, not just for me, but for my friends. I know there's been like 15 of us who have lost their jobs in different various parts of the business, and that's just at our station. So I don't even know. I know a few people lost their jobs in Perth. I don't know how many, but yeah, so sad for all of us, but also just sad for radio because I love radio and it's an industry that used to be amazing. And honestly, I used to work with a man who was a legend of Australian radio. His name was Jeffrey Sundo. And he was, for 10 surveys in a row, he had the #1 breakfast show along with another man called Keith Martin. And I used to absolutely love listening to Sundo's stories. I had, the absolute honor of working with him at a former radio station that I worked at doing the breakfast show there. He was on our sister station, and just the stories he would used to tell of traveling, being flown first class to London to do interviews with Shirley Bassey and these incredible artists and these huge names in music history, and just absolutely incredible. It would have been a glorious time to be in radio. Absolutely. And so I will always cherish those stories and hearing about the glory days of radio. And it just feels really sad to me that the industry is struggling so much at the moment. And I feel like there are so many things that can be done about that. And there is a different way to go about these things. But it feels like that's not going to happen anytime soon. And it feels like maybe we're kind of gonna hit rock bottom a little bit before hopefully radio bounces back. Fingers crossed, because it would be really sad to lose that. It's sad to think that even when I was growing up, we had like all of our radio stations had live breakfast shows, had live drive shows, had live announcers during the day and on weekends, and even mid-dawns. You know, a lot of people got their start in radio by doing mid-dawns, the graveyard shifts, working overnight when everyone's asleep. And now we don't we don't have that element of localness anymore, and that affinity with the people that you're listening to, because half the time they've probably never been to where you're listening from. And I just feel like I'm sad that that isn't how it is anymore. But I really hope that it will get back to being that way once radio gets back on its feet. But in the meantime, I've stopped crying now, so that's great. I'm still technically employed at my station, so I'm still a casual announcer. And if shifts come up, of course, I will jump and I will be there and I will gladly announce, because that's something that I'm good at and I like to do. So let's hope that that does happen at some point, because, you know, one thing that I will say in the radio industry is that things change on a dime. So yeah, who knows? But in the meantime, so that's been going on. I've been sort of trying to wrap my head around that. I have actually sent a demo video into Mamma Mia, which is a company in Australia that does a lot of podcasts. They have online magazines. It's a really cool company, and it's female owned and driven. So I really like that. And I have a girlfriend who used to be the journalist at my work when I was a breakfast radio announcer. And she now does a nationwide podcast called The Quickie for Mamma Mia. And she was kind enough to put me in contact with someone that I could send a demo through to. Now, I haven't heard anything back, so I'm not sure that's a good sign. But also, you know, it's the beginning of the year. Everyone's overworked. They've just come back from holidays, so we'll give it some time. But still, you know, that's a really great thing to be able to have awesome friends like that I've worked with who are willing to go out on a limb and try and help you find your way in some way in the industry again. And I do think that that's quite a common trait. I've been really lucky with people that I have worked with along the way, or, you know, people that I learnt from at radio school, and they've all been really kind people who were wanting to help you get a leg up in the industry. And so I really appreciate that, and I'm grateful for those people that I've met along the way. So we'll see what happens with that. But a podcast, I think even if I don't get anywhere with that, I would really like to do my own podcast, and it's just figuring out which way I want to go with that. That's always been the issue, because I've always wanted to do it, but also I've never had time to do it. And so I'm looking forward to that being something that I tackle. So that's exciting. And okay, so the other thing that's been happening is I've been having just a mass of medical appointments. So I went to see, where to start? I went to see my endo specialist, who is wonderful, just recently, like last week, because I had fresh MRIs done, pelvic MRIs, because I hadn't had one since before my last big surgery, which was a few years ago. So I've had little ones in between, but not big one. So I had the pelvic MRI done, went in to see my specialist, and I have severe endometriosis. I have stage 4 endo. I have had for over a decade now. My organs are a mess. Things are kind of tied together, and because that's one of the things that endometriosis does, as well as being really difficult to say, it's also difficult to live with, because the endometriomas can wrap themselves around your organs and distort the shape of your organs. And so with my last big surgery, they had to cut out, there was a big thick wall that was joining my uterus and my bowel together, so that my bowel wasn't able to function in the way that it's supposed to function in. So everything was really difficult with that. And so that was good that we had that done. But my left ovary is still really tied up in a whole bunch of endo and scar tissue. There is endo in my uterus, my cervix. I have had it on my bowels previously. Basically, there's just a whole bunch of mess and scar tissue that are not helping my situation. And so I asked my specialist, what do you think I should do? And he was like, have you had enough? Do you want to have hysterectomy? And so that is something that I've been putting a lot of thought into. There are a lot of people that are very anti-hysterectomy, and I have not had kids. I don't have a partner right now. So The odds of me meeting someone and having a baby are very slim. And my chance, I asked him, like, you know, what do you think my fertility chances would be of having a child anyway? And he's like 2 to 4%. So they're not great odds. And you know, the other thing is, I never even knew if I wanted to have kids. But when I was told that I had terrible fertility and I would most likely need to have IVF to conceive, I was like, excuse me, how dare you take that option away from me? It's so interesting. Like, there's a difference between choosing not to have a child purely because that's what you want for your life and being told you can't have a child. Now, a lot of people conceive even when they've been told that it's hard or it may not be possible, and that's amazing. And I'm so happy that that happens for people that, you know, are hoping for that miracle. I am finding this whole thing really confusing because I do feel that way. I've never known if I wanted to have kids. I'm kind of, one of my best friends calls me a gypsy because I've always been more, I don't know, like I love to travel. I love to learn. I love culture, history. Like I just want to be a little nomad around the world. I would love to meet a partner who is amazing and wonderful and kind and supportive, but I haven't met him yet. And in the meantime, I would rather be on my own, living a full life and dealing with my own health issues without having someone who makes me feel worse about it than being in a relationship. So there is that side of me that thinks like, what if I were to meet the man of my dreams the day after I have my hysterectomy? And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, now I want to have a baby, because maybe I've not ever wanted to have a child because I've never been in the position where I've been with someone who I can see myself having a child with. So I don't know if that could change, if how I feel about that could change, but realistically, you know, I'm 42. So the odds of me, even if I did meet someone tomorrow, the odds of me being ready to have a child with that person in the time frame that I need to do that, I mean, they're pretty slim. This whole so it's a really difficult decision to make, though. I did read somewhere that, you know, one of the hardest things for women who are contemplating having hysterectomy is, it says here, for those who've never been pregnant, keeping their uterus gives them a sense of hope despite their age and other adverse factors that might affect their chances. And I think that's so true. It's like, realistically, I know that it's highly unlikely that I would be able to have a child. And I don't even know if I want a child. But what if? It's a lot. It's a lot to wrap your head around. But there are a lot of pros to having hysterectomies, and I know women that have had severe endo for a long time who have had hysterectomies and feel bloody fantastic about it. I'm not saying that they feel 100% perfect, but their life quality has improved so much. And while that's not guaranteed, it does seem to be kind of a theme with people who have had severe life impacts from their endometriosis. And I can say that I am one of those people. The last 11 years have been in and out of hospital, just trying to get through every day as best I can without lying on the floor, just crying all day in pain or vomiting all day. So it's had a huge impact on my life. And so at this point, I'm trying to figure out whether to have a hysterectomy, or after speaking to my specialist a bit more, he was like, we can do an excision surgery, and doing that, like, we'll have a red hot crack in there. We'll go in, free up as much as we can and make it easier for the next time we have to go in there. And so that's also an option. But then there's part of me that's like, am I just prolonging the agony? Coco, she never shuts up. And so all these things are going through my mind, and it's just a really tough decision to make. If he does a hysterectomy, he'll take my uterus, my cervix, and my left ovary, but he will leave my right ovary. So technically I wouldn't be in menopause. So that's something. And you know, when you read, like, it's like you should never read the medication side effects when you take a new medication, because you would never take them. But, you know, some of the things that can happen through hysterectomy, and I think more likely this is through a full hysterectomy and oophorectomy where they take both your ovaries as well. But, you know, there's always risks of prolapse, incontinence, constipation. I mean, I have that anyway because of the inflammation on my bowel. It's like, it's just one of those awesome things that I live with. So it's like, eh. But, yeah, the blood supply to the ovaries can be compromised during surgery, and that can cause issues. Early menopause is known to be associated with increased cardiovascular risks such as heart attacks and strokes, as well as osteoporosis. Premature menopause can also increase the risk of dementia. There are just so many things. There's also something that they call post-hysterectomy syndrome, which means that women who've had a hysterectomy take longer to recover than those who've undergone other major surgeries. Like, why can't my uterus just be on the outside of my body? Why is it so easy for men to get the snip, but it's so hard for women to have a hysterectomy? It's just not fair. Like, we get all the crap. We also get to dress up pretty and girly, and if that's what we're into. So I guess that's a plus. But yeah, there's just so much information to go through, and I change my mind constantly about whether I want to have a hysterectomy or whether I just want to have excision surgery. There's just, I don't know. And will I ever know? Like, will I ever feel ready and like I'm sound in my decision to have a hysterectomy? And if I have just excision surgery, am I going to be kicking myself and being like, I should have just gone through and had the hysterectomy? Because both these operations cost, well, I have health insurance. They're going to cost me $3,000 out of pocket for the surgical fee. Then there'll be the additional fee for because I'm having additional surgeons there, and there'll probably be a colorectal surgeon on call as well. And there will be the anaesthetist fee and then the hospital excess. So it's going to end up costing me at least $5,000. And I have had so many of these surgeries. I mean, not as many as some people. My God, there are definitely people with endo who suffer far worse than me. One of those is a girl who I follow on Instagram. She's British, she's English, she has endometriosis, and she has been through the absolute ringer. That girl is a walking wonder. But, you know, it's the reason why I live with my parents. I can't afford to live by myself. Firstly, the world is not set up for women to live by themselves. Everything's like, you know, you got to split the cost down the middle to make things work, especially with the housing crisis, the cost of housing in Australia at the moment. But also, like last week, I had 2 appointments with a heart specialist. I had to have a test that cost $600. I had a $350 migraine infusion because I have chronic migraines. And then I'm having another heart specialist consultation next week. Then an appointment with my neurologist. All of these appointments are at least $200 to $300. I don't know how I'm supposed to make that money. And then this surgery. So it's really hard. And I'm freaking lucky because I have parents that are incredible and supportive. And I'm so lucky that I am not someone who doesn't have a support network, because I don't know. I just feel for anyone in that position. So yeah, a lot going on. I thought I was going to be having surgery on Monday and I had to make a snap decision, but now it's looking like I'm having surgery in February, on the 4th of Feb. The problem with that is that I'm starting uni, which I'm so excited about, in March. And that only gives me a few weeks of recovery time. And every time I have surgery, it takes me longer to recover. And if I were to have a hysterectomy, it's like 6 to 8 weeks recovery. And for me, someone who has had a lot of stuff done, it tends to take even longer. I'm really sensitive to anesthetic and things as well. So there's a lot to weigh up, and my mind has been just racing. But I did want to just have a little chat with you and let you know what's going on in case, I don't know what's going to happen. But I'll be around. Also, I wanted to pick up the Lethal Cosmetics Dexter collection, but I can't. I have $0 in my bank account right now. So I will try and get that when I have a bit more money and when it goes on sale, because I'm sure they'll restock it if it's popular. And if you have it, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please let me know. If you're an endo person, look, I'm here. if you have any questions, if I can help you with anything, I will. I am an ambassador for Endometriosis Australia. It's really important to me to try and spread the word, try and raise money for research, just improve women's quality of life. And those who are transgender as well. Coco, you're killing me. I'm having a heart-to-heart. Anyway, thanks for being here, and I will be back with you very soon at the Dally Diaries. Take care.